Welcome everybody to our new release webinar, our summer edition, release 26.3. We're very excited to have all of you here today. I think we have a couple of very cool features to unpack for all of you. And of course, you're also very interested in your questions, which you will answer at the end. You can ask your questions in both English and German in our question portion of GoToWebinar. So, Sie können auch Ihre Fragen auf Deutsch stellen. Meine Kollegen können das übersetzen. That's about the German I can do today. Maybe a bit more at the end. We'll see. Who do we have here today? You can see my colleagues here as well. You have Marco, our Senior Director of Product. We have Rick, our Director of Engineering. And we have Jan, our Principal AI Engineer. They will be here talking with you about all of the new features we will be publishing and showing to you live. So let's dive into the key features of this release. So it's our summer release, and we have three main things we would like to show you today, followed by an overview of all the other minor improvements we have been doing as well. So we'll start with Pathfinder Automapping. I think this is the thing many of you have been waiting for. It's the AI-assisted mapping through Pathfinder, which will make it a lot easier for you to create mappings from source to target structures. Secondly, we will talk about our platform portal, which provides you with more self-service control over your Lobster cloud instances. And finally, we will talk and show you our new platform APIs, because on our roadmap, we have started a journey to become more and more programmable from a platform point of view, allowing you to connect AI agents or other technical tools directly to the APIs of our platform, so you can automate certain tasks. The reason we chose these topics to invest in for this quarter is that we see that lots of our customers have the challenge that their IT integration teams get hit with many projects at the same time. AI projects, onboarding new training partners, upgrading internal systems, cloud operations, restarting nodes, opening firewalls, all of that stuff. And that means that an IT team can become the bottleneck for the business. We see all of these requests hitting many of the integration teams at our customers, which makes it hard to keep up because some mappings take days to create. Sometimes you may be waiting for our support team to open up a port on our Lobster Cloud firewall, meaning that you as an expert can get stuck on routine work instead of focusing on the things where you can add the highest value. So the goal for us is to make sure that you basically can keep up with this by automating the heavy lifting. That's what we would like to help you with this release even further. So with this release, we remove heavy lifting in a few areas. With Pathfinder Automapping, we help you with field-by-field mapping, which we can now do automatically, still with you as a human, fully in the loop, fully in control. We'll show it to you live. Secondly, with the platform portal, you no longer have to create support tickets for routine cloud maintenance tasks. So opening up a firewall, maybe looking at some health metrics, we will show you that also. And finally, for platform API, you can start to automate things you would typically in the past do as a human on the user interface. So each of these new capabilities removes a category of manual work, all underpinned by our larger set of further improvements. The goal here is really that you can focus on what matters. So on edge cases, on business logic, on completely new integrations and AI initiatives. So you can build more on top of the platform faster. That's what we would like to achieve. Now, with that, I would like to hand it over to Jan to get started with Pathfinder Automapping. I know it's the thing many of you have been waiting for. So Jan, I'm very excited to hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Jethro. We are excited as well on our side. And as you guys know, this has been one of the most highly requested features we have received over the last year. And the team have been hard at work for lots of months now, and we are super excited to share this very first iteration with you right now, right here. Jethro already mentioned it. The same that applies to every Pathfinder solution we build also, of course, applies to Pathfinder Automapping, which means that the goal is always to keep you as an expert in the loop. What that means is that Pathfinder, of course, will help to get to speed faster by generating suggestions for you. And those suggestions, of course, are not out of nowhere, but those are backed by the knowledge that Pathfinder has of our platform. But the general workflow will always be that Pathfinder will always suggest something to you, and it will never reach the actual profile state until a human has reviewed it. So the human cycle means that, I will show that in a second, the human will have to go through the suggestions, see what Pathfinder suggests, either accept, modify, or decline these types of suggestions. And the goal here, of course, is that we take the very painstakingly slow work of doing the structural mapping that sometimes takes days for really large profiles down to just hours of review so that you can get to your integration faster. And with that, let's jump over to the actual platform. This very first demo case that we have for you is an SAP-like target tree. So you will see if you guys are working with, for example, iDoc formats, those are very similar. And the second thing you will see is I am just in the basic phase view of our platform. In this case, specifically phase 3, because that is where the structural mapping lives. The profile I have here already has some fields pre-mapped. So this is a case of I have started the manual work myself, and then I decide I want to hand it over to Pathfinder to help me go through all of these fields here faster. What you can now see is this looks the exact same as you know it, but now we have a new button up here with this Pathfinder symbol that allows you to go into the auto mapping wizard. And if I click that, you will see this new modal pops up where you have the first choice to be made in every Pathfinder automapping. Do you want to use a test file? Those are the same test files you can use for the profiles already. Then I would select one from the list. Or do you want to continue without a test file? In this case, let's go with this test file right here. So I keep this selected and I hit continue mapping. And now Pathfinder starts to analyze the profile. So what it does is it takes a look at the source structure, it takes a look at the target structure, it takes into account any pre-existing mappings, just like the ones that I have already made in this profile. And then it is going to go through all of its knowledge to say which fields should be mapped on the target structure to which fields on the source structure, and the same for nodes. So this works both on the node level for iteration, and this also, of course, works on the actual leaf node on the actual fields. And then it comes back to you, as you can see, within a couple of seconds and presents you with this view. So it tells you up right here directly, I have found 34 confident matches. So important part, Pathfinder will never do anything without a confidence score attached to it. And I will show you where you can see the exact reasoning for why it thinks it is confident on those in a second. It will also tell you, I have analyzed the profile and I've seen you had 4 pre-mapped fields or nodes already. I have found 4 suggestions that need review. So where I need you as the human, as the expert in the loop to actually tell Pathfinder, is this correct or is this off? And then it has also 8 fields in the target structure that have no matching candidate from the source structure, which of course, as you know, oftentimes happens. So let's get into it. Let's start with some of the confident matches. For example, it provided here that it wants to map the address node from the source structure to the node of ADRC in the target structure. And of course, as I click on it, you will see that these trees also jump to these specific entries. So this is the same view you know, just now in a separate Pathfinder modal, because that is an important part. Pathfinder is not working on your profile directly. You will see the profile is still unchanged, and Pathfinder is working on an intermediate state, because as we said, you as a human have to review and have to verify first, and only if you hit apply do we actually transfer something over to the real profile in the database. But let's see what it says here. We do have the mapping entries. We can select or deselect. So if we want to say, no, this is not correct, we just uncheck it here, and you see the node goes to an unchecked folder node here, unchecked folder icon. And I can also say I need more information. So and then Pathfinder says to me, this is a confident match with 96% of confidence, and this is my rationale. ADRC is SAP's address table, fields map directly to street or strass, to house number, etc., etc. So it will give you the insight that it uses to actually make this fairly confident claim. So now you go through here and say, okay, maybe there are some that I don't want to accept. Let's say I don't want to maybe do the city to Ort, even though that is correct. I can uncheck it, and the node is unchecked here. And then, of course, the interesting part where Pathfinder isn't confident, it's not going to suggest you anything. It just says, this is what I feel could be correct, but you see it is by default unchecked. So I can jump to these and can see external ID in the source tree is coming from the customer node, and it wants to be mapped to the xref3 on the target structure on the KNA1 node. I can now go again into the tooltip, and Pathfinder tells me, I am only 72% confident here, your review is required. And I still think that XREF3 is an SAP external reference field, which is a reasonable match for an external ID. So now it is on you as the user to say, I agree with that sentiment. Then I can hit this, and you can see the ones that you approve now manually are showing up here in the tree in yellow. Let's say I want to actually do 3 of them and keep the status empty, then the status remains unmapped in both source and target. And of course, I can also see where Pathfinder says for these target fields, I do not actually see a relevant value in the source structure. Let's say we are good to go with that. I hit approve, and Pathfinder now asks me again, okay, this is what I would now write to the profile. 63 total mappings, 4 of them were existing previously, and 8 of them are no match. I can at any point go back, of course, to the previous model, or I hit apply. And if I hit apply, then Pathfinder writes to the profile. And if I now open up these trees, you will see that they are now mapped just as you usually map them by hand. And I can prove that also in the consolidated view up here by showing you which links were now written to the profile. And at this point, the profile is in the same state as if you would have drawn all of these structural mappings yourself. I can then, of course, save the profile, and then I could use this profile in my test or production setting. This is one of the examples. Another example where this is really helpful is with the CAP connector that we offer, which some of you might already be using. And as you know, to actually use the CAP connector, you need to fill out this template that we provide. And this template is a canonical template, which in our world means not all of these fields will be relevant all of the time. In this case, we want to map a freight order, Frachtauftrag in German. And as you know, these are the fields, typical fields of a freight order. And we now need to figure out where in this very large structure of our canonical CAP connector template, we need to map these two. And Pathfinder is, of course, also able to suggest mappings for you here. In this case, again, let's select a test file. I could always at any point say I want to use no test file. But in this case, I say this is fine, let's use this. And then it is going to go off. But we have some very different thing here because Pathfinder also does some pre-validation checks. And in this case, it tells you this is a fairly large structure. So we do have some initial limits in place. And this is one of the cases where this limits gets reached. So Pathfinder tells you, I can still continue, but the quality might be worse. Do you want to run this anyway? And I get to choose cancel if I want to not do that, or I can say, please give it a go, Pathfinder. In this case, I'm just saying, let me see what you can come up with. And then we end up in the same view. So this will again take a couple of seconds. It's going to analyze the profile from the intermediate state of the profile and is then going to come back with both confident matches, review matches, and of course no matches. And in this specific case, I expect the no match column to be pretty high because I know from using the CAP connector that we only need a very small amount of actual target fields in that very broad template to do a freight order. And this is exactly what we see now here. You can see in the top right corner, 360 fields of the target structure have no match. And this is by design, because we know that we only need a very limited set of these fields to actually make a freight order work. It has found 19 confident matches and 9 of them need review. As I said, this is a more complex topic. And now as a user, I would again confirm the confident matches. Same way, I have the tooltip for the rationale. And I would, of course, then go into the needs review section, would go through it, would hit those off that I think are actually worth it, leave the other ones, and then hit approve and apply. And of course, as soon as I hit apply, the profile gets updated, and you will see that it is now fully mapped. And I can, of course, also run this right here, where I run the actual test files to validate this. And some of you might already have seen it in the Pathfinder model. You also have this view for the test file, which already shows you the values directly in the Pathfinder model, the same as you can now see them right here. So it is the same user experience that you are used to, same no-code or low-code environment, same general working experience, just taken to an AI-assisted level where you are always in control. We are super excited with that. We hope you are too, and we can't wait for you to get your hands on it because we really think that this will help you move the actual painstakingly task of doing these structural mappings from days to hours. And it will allow you once again to focus on what actually matters, which is the edge cases, the really hard cases, the cases where you need logic on top of just the structural mapping. All of these things, we want to give you the time back to actually focus on those. And of course, the important part, which you will likely expect, and we are happy to confirm, this work you are doing together with Pathfinder, of course, compounds. So every single suggestion that you accept, every single modification that you make with Pathfinder is another entry point in Pathfinder's knowledge. And over time, the more you do it, the less you will have to review, because Pathfinder will learn over time and will improve over time to learn your patterns, so that we can even have you focus more on the edge cases. With that, I'm super happy to give it over to Marco to share some details about the rest of the amazing stuff that we have for this release.
Thank you, Jan, for the awesome demo. So I'm really impressed, and I can imagine our audience have tons of questions about it. So please feel free to use our question tool here in the webinar software to reach all, or to raise all your questions. We will handle them, all of that, we promise, in the end of this session. Let me move forward to our next release highlight, and this is the first release of our platform portal. So if you're a customer of our Lobster Cloud, you may know that it's really hard sometimes to interact with our cloud, especially if you want to make some changes. So it's a simple stuff like server restart or just managing the firewall. You always have to go through our support, you have to wait, and you have not really the full control about your environment if you are hosting on Lobster Cloud. So with the launch of Platform Portal, we want to exactly change that and give you the full power back as a user. So it doesn't matter if you are in our cloud or if you are an on-prem user. With Platform Portal in the future, if you're using Lobster Cloud, you have the same control as you have, nearly the same control as you have on-prem. So you can manage your firewall, you can start restart servers, you can define maintenance windows. You also receive email confirmations if you configure something. You can audit and look on the loggings, and you also for sure can monitor your instances if they are hosted on our Lobster Cloud. And to make that a bit more visual, I will hand over to my colleague Rick, who will give us a demo on this. Rick, over to you.
Thank you so much, Marco. So here you look at the platform portal from the perspective of a customer. You can see I got different environments, and one of those environments is my release webinar test environment. I can open it up and I can see everything around this environment. I can see that it's running. I can see that it consists of 4 different resources, a DMZ, a node controller, and 2 databases. And I can also inspect it to see some more details. So I can click on it and I can actually see the IP addresses and some other things that might be relevant for you. And as Marco said, from here, I can trigger a restart. So if I click restart, it will ask me, what do I want to restart? Do I want to restart the DMZ, the node controller, or both? Do I want to do a hard restart? Or do I actually want to say, no, I have a grace period that gives me, in this case, 3 minutes for the jobs to finish, instead of that we just like hard stop the system. Maybe give it a description, so later on you can see why I did this restart. Might even schedule it so it happens tonight, or it could even happen, let's say, every other day, whatever you want in terms of like a recurring restart. If I say I trigger this restart, I can basically trigger it immediately. And then if I go to my restart history, you can see that I got some successful restarts, I got a failed restart, and in this case I have a pending restart. If I look at the one I did before, you can see information about what is happening as well. So you can see that it starts with a request, and then basically it waits for the LDP to restart, and in the end it waits for it to be up. And as soon as the restart is completed, I will of course get an email so I know it's completed. But it's not just about restarts. It is all about other things as well. I can also dig into the firewall and I can see exactly which rules apply for this particular instance. I can download them if I need to provide them to some compliancy team, and I can also manage them. So in this case, let's say I have port 9000, which is for the admin console. I could decide to limit the source and target address. So I say it's not publicly available, but it's only available for some people. So through here, you can inspect which ports are open. I can open up new ports. I can close ports. I can change the address ranges, and all of that works totally fine. I can do it for my DMZ. I can do it for my inner nodes and everything. And Marco said I can do some monitoring as well. So here If I click on the monitoring, I can get data from the last hour, from the last 6 hours, or the last couple of days. And I can see that I can inspect, for instance, CPU usage, or I can inspect memory usage. I can inspect information from my databases, like the amount of database connections, my query performance, and also I can have a look at like how full is my disk. So all of this is available. Of course, this is a Lobster Cloud platform portal, so it's only for the Lobster Cloud customers. We'll send invites for our Lobster Cloud customers to get access to this very soon. Yeah, last thing I wanted to show, it's not there just in English, but it's also auf Deutsch, if that's what you prefer. Marco, back to you.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Rick. So you saw this is just the first beginning, the first version of the platform portal. We want to give you way more control as it was in the past. It's no extra cost, as Rick already mentioned. We start the rollout next Monday, and we will contact you immediately from our support team and invite you for your instances to get access to the portal. To enable you to act in real time in the future. Awesome. So let me move to the next highlight of this release, and this is our platform API. So we see that more and more of our users, of our customers, have the tendency and have the needs to interact with our product more programmatically. So instead of configure anything on the UI, even just an assignment of a profile to a channel, you want to leverage more and more of your own API, of your own workflow tools, of your own even AI agents. And that's why we decided to open up the platform. And we start a bigger initiative where we now add more and more of these endpoints over the next few months or quarters to make exactly that happen, that you can manage anything programmatically over the API, what you're doing in the UI as well. You can also frame it as a headless API initiative. We call it platform API, and we start with a few first endpoints this release for profiles, for partners and channels, read only at the moment. But we are working on the right version, of course. Yeah, and having said that, I think it's the best thing to present this is also another demo, also about different use cases. So Rick, again, over to you.
Thank you, Marco. All right, so here we have the Lobster Data Platform, and we'll be using in the demo a couple of partners and channels and some other things. But before I dive into that, I want to highlight just like some small things that I think is really cool. As you can see, the theme is completely renewed. We harmonized the theme more across the application, and I think you might have seen it in Jan's presentation. We also have a beautiful new clean-looking dark mode. Lots of developers love this. Secondly, of course, I'll be using my partners, but I will also be using my profiles. And on the profile, I will use a profile with CRM. I can do a right-click open in browser tab. Like across the platform, we have made sure that we sprinkle these open in new browser tab buttons. And it will open up a tab, and it will actually show in the URL what it's opening. So in this case, a profile for this particular ID, which means I can also bookmark this. So if there's particular profiles you work on often, or if there's particular capabilities you work on, you can actually bookmark these capabilities. If you want to find the link to it, you can always click this link as well. Something that was already there a little bit, but we did bring it back more consistently. Well, we were going to talk about these particular profiles. I will show more about how this profile looks from a different way. Because as Marco said, we have now this platform API. And the idea of the platform API is you can interact with the platform programmatically. So if you're not a human working in the UI or potentially with Pathfinder, you might want to do some other things. So we create a new API that will be expanding with different ways of authenticating. You can do machine-to-machine authentication with OAuth2 client credentials that you can actually restrict to that particular use case. So the person implementing the API won't be able to do everything, but only what you want them to do. Or I could use my own UI session, and I can also create guest users. Right now, this is getting profiles, getting channels, and getting partners with all the details underneath it. And in the future, we'll be expanding this to also things like write access, multiple versions of profiles, and the other topics we have. Because this is Swagger, you can import it in any tool. So what I currently did is I just took it into Bruno, just like Postman, and I can say, well, give me a preview of the partners. And I see that same demo partner that I saw before. I can copy the ID, and I can basically paste it here, and I can hit send again. And as you can see, I find the same 2 channels for that partner. So now you can easily access it through the API. But yeah, in the era of AI, this is not the only way to interact. So what I think is really cool is I can also do this. I can go to Claude, and I can basically say, type me a prompt. So what I will be doing now is I say connect to the Lobster data platform through the API. So this is a clean Claude code session. The only thing I did is I prepped some credentials in the local file, and I said which channels are there. And now it's going to explore the working directory. It's going to find those credentials. It found it. The next step is it will start to connect to the OpenAI specification because it needs, or it understands it needs to do something with the API. After that, it's going to say like, hey, let's see what we do. Let's actually examine the API specification to see what we have in there. And it says, hey, we have this partner endpoint, the one I previously manually selected. It automatically understands how it wants to authenticate. It writes the right Python code. And now it basically says, let's just trigger it. Found my partner ID. It understands it needs to do the second command, the second REST action. And now it created this beautiful table that showed the exact same thing. So this is an example of like how you can start to type with your Lobster. You could do it in Claude Code, you could do it in Claude Desktop, or any other tool that basically supports calling APIs. I can also ask it a little bit more of a complicated question. I can say, what is the target structure of the profile with CRM in the name? So now it understands it needs to, well, dig into those profiles, and it needs to start understanding this, how this profile works. So basically, as you can see now, it's starting to call my API endpoint. On the profiles endpoint, it still puts in that same bearer token, and it will detect that the profile endpoint is quite large. And it actually says, hey, let me find the right profile. So now it's going to find the right profile based on the data I just downloaded. And it's going to do some magic on this and show me how this profile looks. And this is something that I think is really cool, because on one hand, it allows me as a human to interact with the platform through prompting. But at the second time, I can also use this to build applications on top of the Lobster data platform. Because with Claude, I can program skills, I can program tools, I can program anything I want, where you combine everything you have, take the Lobster data platform, and build new use cases. And now I expect it to be crunching through my entire profile database very fast and actually show me my target structure. There you have it. So it's that same top level node within it, and first name, last name, and the customer ID. So without me saying anything in terms of API specification, just prompting, it was able to figure out exactly what it needs to do. And with that, Marco, back to you.
Thank you, Rick. Awesome. So let me share my screen again. With the new platform API, you build on the platform and not just in it anymore. So we open up the platform, as I said, this is just first the beginning, to make anything programmatically reachable, what you can reach over the UI at the moment. So you can automate end to end. You can even create agents who interact with Lobster, and Lobster is part of your infrastructure, even if you're not touching the UI. And yeah, as I said, we're growing every release. So this is just the first step in this direction. In the next October release, we will have a bunch of more endpoints, and we will extend that over the next few months, few quarters, to make anything who's possible in the platform, or nearly anything, also reachable over the API. And that brings me to the next highlight for today. We frame it as, I would say, quality of life improvements, because tons of you reach out to us and give a lot of good feedback. They say, okay, the dark mode is maybe not so nice. I can't see that, or it's not sticky enough. Or the bookmark feature we love from the old data product, we want to have back. Or the work across tabs is not so easy in the new LDP platform. And we listen to that and we hear that. And that's why we did a lot of also quality of life improvements. You saw that in the demo as well, with a new design system, with a new dark mode in place, also with a new bookmarking implementation, that you also can now select your favorite views in the platform itself and store it as a bookmark, to improve the quality of your life and your day-to-day work. But in addition to that, we also have invested in tons of other improvements into the product. And with 26.3, we already launched that. So the Trading Partner Manager, something we introduced in 26.1, so this January, now also can handle HTTPS channels and OAuth 2. So then also for AMQP, so for our SAP users, we also improve OAuth 2 via AMQP. So there's a total new AMQP connector available with OAuth 2 authentication. We also invest into the process map again and also make one of your wishes true, so that you can now also export anything you visualize in the process map into different formats and can use this for your documentations or for other processes as well. And finally, the new design system, you saw that already in the templates, and the SSO login credentials is approved as well. So tons of new bug fixes, feature improvements, and quality of life improvements parallel to our highlights. And having said that, I will hand it back to Jethro, who give us an overview when this is available and how you can interact with that. Jethro, back to you.
Thank you, Marco. Exactly. So let's wrap this up. I have saw a lot of questions in the chat, by the way, so we'll dive in them in a minute. And in the chat, many questions, people ask when is this available. So this release was launched on this Tuesday, the 14th of July. So it is available for everybody who today is on our Lobster Data Platform license. Then you can install it yourself through the Update Center. If you're in our Lobster Cloud, it will install automatically on your test system in 1.5 or so weeks, 2 weeks on the 2nd of August. And your production system in the Lobster Cloud will be automatically upgraded on the 23rd of August. So it's available since today. You can download through the Update Center. If you're on our cloud and you don't want to install yourself, wait for the 2nd of August for your test system. That's how it will be available to all of you. And it's all included at no extra cost. I saw a lot of questions also in the chat about this. Pathfinder Automapping, as well as the other things you just saw, are bundled or part of the Lobster Data Platform license. It's all in there, no extra cost. You can use it immediately. And for those people who do not run in the cloud, we had a lot of questions about that as well. Of course, you can also install the upgrade, and Pathfinder will also work for the customers who do not run on the Lobster Cloud. So if you run on-premise or in your private cloud, Pathfinder Automapping will work there as well, as long as your server can reach our API server, which I know almost all of your systems do. So as soon as you can reach your API server, you can run on-prem, private cloud, it does not matter. You can always use Pathfinder. So I want to be very clear on that. We optimize our roadmap investments across all of our installation base, not only for Lobster Cloud. So I think that's clear for Pathfinder. Now, what's coming next? A little bit of sneak peek towards the next release, because behind the scene, Marco, Rick, Jan, and the team are all already working hard on 26.4. It will be released mid-October. I also got some questions about that in the chat. Mid-October, we will release this, and this will be the LTS version. So if you need to be on an LTS version for certain internal policy reasons, mid-October, you will get the next LTS, which will contain, of course, all the things we've released over the last few quarters. And it will contain a couple of new things. So first of all, we're going deeper on auto mapping. So what we internally call maps. What you saw now is mapping from data structures, right? What you did not see yet is function generation. We are researching it heavily, The aim is to get a first version of that out the door in October as well. We will see how far we come, but the goal is to have the first generation of functions as well, and then ready for mid-October. Furthermore, we will go deeper with Pathfinder on our orchestration side of the platform. We've got a lot of questions from all of you about wanting to use portals or the custom type definitions and then grids and then forms, but there is a certain learning curve there. So we are aware of that, and we want to also release Pathfinder as a support in that part of the platform, where you can, for example, with natural language as a human, create custom type definitions and portals and things like that. That will also be multiple releases, step-by-step improvements. You will see the first steps of that also mid-October. Then we go further with our API roadmap as well in October. So you saw the read-only APIs Rick just presented, but we will also start to think about write APIs. You can also read, not only read, but also write to the platform and expand the number of APIs that we have, including at some point wrapping a model context protocol, so MCP server around our own APIs. It's even easier to use in Claude. And finally, we will look at improving our user and role management setup, because it's fairly elaborate, but we know for many of you, you would like a more simplified version. So we're working on that as well. Now, of course, this is future vision, so things might change along the way, but this is what we're aiming for in 26.4. Our larger story is this. All of you use the platform, of course, to connect systems, transform data, and then bring that to production, right? So you use it to build integrations and also then to operate them at scale in production, if deploying on your own premise or your own cloud or with Lobster, and monitoring the workloads in production in real time. Now, what you saw us do the last releases with Pathfinder is step by step, all along the way in this integration lifecycle, introduce Pathfinder as ways of helping you to build integrations faster. So you saw the first things like function chain documentation generation. We can create cron tab expressions or database queries. Now with this release, you saw us bringing the automated structure mapping into place. And our vision is that all along this integration development lifecycle, we will embed AI through Pathfinder to make it easier and faster for you. So we are far from done. You can expect from us release over release to add more of these capabilities all along the cycle. So stay tuned for much more innovation on that front. Now, let me wrap it up with some calls to action. So first of all, our Lobster Live session. You've seen the first two, I think, the last few months. These are done by our technical success management team, and they're available for everybody free of charge. So everybody who uses our technology can join the Lobster Live sessions. They are free. You can sign up on our website. Next one is on the 28th of August, where we will talk about operating your platform in production. For example, by connecting Grafana or New Relic or Datadog directly to the platform, so you can monitor the platform with third-party observability tools. That's the topic of August. In September, we will talk about more profile mastery, so advanced logging, advanced error handling. Then in October, you'll have the next release webinar for the LTS. And then in November, the Lobster Live sessions will be back. And then we will talk about APIs and services and how you can build MCP tools in practice. So very, very interesting deep tech sessions. I like to watch these myself as well, because you really see the technical details behind the scenes, how you can build. So feel free to go to the website, scan the QR code, sign up. We record also all the sessions. We publish them also in our academy, so you can also watch them later. But feel free to join. I think it's a very valuable source of information with much more technical details. Then the final topic before we open it up for questions. So many of you were at our Data Hero Summit last year in June in Munich. We had our biggest summit so far. Now we plan the next one for next year in June 2027. We will be in Frankfurt for 1.5 days, where we really go deep and big on all of our technology. So we will have a second big event. We aim for 1,500 supply chain professionals to be there, talking about data integration, AI, and how we can build a backbone for the supply chain. It will be a 1.5-day event. We'll have major keynotes, but also this time a lot of technical breakout sessions with our technical success managers, with our support team, the services team. We will all be there, showing in breakout rooms all kinds of live demos and deep tech sessions. So feel free to save the date. The event is free of charge. It's in Frankfurt, and we would love to see as many of our members of our community there. Because this is the moment where we can engage with all of you and share our plans for 2027, of course. It will be the biggest event we have ever held. So I would very much like to invite all of you to join and save the date. With that, I would like to invite Marco, Rick, and Jan back on the virtual stage. I'll stop sharing, and we can go deeper in the questions that we got.
Let me maybe first start with some heads up. I think we are flooded by questions, but you really appreciate that. Tons of questions, but we definitely cannot handle them all in the next 20 minutes. So we will send you a follow-up email pretty soon and try to handle all your questions. So please look on your inbox in the next days. You will get the answers there.
Yes, it's good that you say that, Marco, because I counted, I think, 150 questions or so.
Yes,
so
we try to do that in the background, and I think we can tackle a lot of them, but for sure we cannot handle all of them. And then the second, I think, housekeeping note is I saw a few of you are raising your hands. This is a feature of GoToWebinar, but we are not using this in this session because we have so many people in the room. This will not work. So please use the question thing. Then we can definitely make sure that we also address your question. Even if we cannot handle it here, then we will get an email, as I said. And that, I think the first question I can handle before I hand over to you, Jethro, and this is a German one who asked if this is also available on 4.6 because they still use 4.6 on-prem. Unfortunately, not all the new features will only for Lobster Data Platform. So even it's on-prem, you can also host Lobster Data Platform on-prem, but 4.6 is maintenance mode. We are not developing any new features for 4.6.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for picking that one up, Marco. All the new capabilities are Lobster Data Platform only, no matter where you deploy, but our innovation goes into the new technology. So, Jan, brace yourself because you have a lot of questions coming your way. So let's dive in. No, exactly. I will try to balance the time because I think there are a lot of questions about Pathfinder, but also some for the portal and the APIs I want to balance. But let's start with some Pathfinder questions. Let me see. So where does the data used by Pathfinder Automapping go to? So the use case here of the customer is, let's say you have sensitive HR data. Does all of that flow through an LLM? How does that work?
I think we can share the general Pathfinder FAQ and security guidelines we have on our documentation for that. It is the same system. So Pathfinder lives within the same architecture as the rest of our features, which means that it lives completely in AWS Bedrock in our enterprise-grade vault, which means we have all of the necessary contracts in place that nobody trains on that data, etc. We do indeed need to process that data. That's also why I showed, for example, the option to map without test data, for example, so that you always are in charge of, do you want to use that data and have that show up in the mapping, or do you just want Pathfinder to work basically without any of potentially sensitive or confident data?
And very explicitly, after you've mapped, even with Pathfinder, the actual run of the job, Pathfinder doesn't look at it. So we only look at it in Pathfinder at the time of mapping, of course.
Yes, we could only see it if you supply a test file. So we never see the actual payload.
Yes, exactly. To build on that, I see various questions about how does it learn, or so if we, for example, reject a suggestion or we say that don't use this one, will Pathfinder over time get better?
Yes, it will. And I've seen some interesting questions to that. We do indeed track the state that Pathfinder suggested and then the state that was finally accepted by the user. So we do have the full provenance of suggestion, modification, deselection, etc. And over time, the more you use it, the more Pathfinder will rely on that knowledge to actually not show you the same suggestions that you have declined 10 times already, but instead use the ones that you have modified.
And I think this also closed the loop in parallel. We have to, you showed the limitations about the 700 fields, I guess. This is just temporary, right? This is not where we're aiming for. This is, we are improving our system behind day by day, and we will also extend the boundaries here.
Exactly. This is just
without any
iteration.
update.
And that's the important part that I also wanted to mention. You will not have to apply any patches or updates to receive the increased Pathfinder quality. We will work on that continuously in the background, and the setup is this way that as soon as we are confident in, for example, a new format like EDFACT, like X12, like VDA, et cetera, or a higher increased field count, it is indeed limited to 700 fields right now. We can just switch that on and it will be available to you immediately.
Exactly. We don't need new releases for that. That's the upside. So there will be continuous investment and improvement behind the scenes. I have a question in German. I'm going to try to read it. If I screw it up, Jan, take it over. For sure, the question is for you anyhow. The question is, waren in ersten Beispiel die Pfade der Zielnoten bereits gesetzt oder hat Pathfinder diese gesetzt?
Do I answer that in English or in German? Let me do it in English first and then in German. So Pathfinder also suggests those for you. I think I had in the first example one node pre-mapped, so one I selected myself, and the other 3 or 4 were actually suggested by Pathfinder, so it is always a 2-step process. Pathfinder first tries to find mappings on the node level and then goes based on that onto the target fields. Und auf Deutsch, die Knoten werden von Pathfinder auch gemappt. In dem Fall war einer der Knoten schon vorausgewählt durch mich manuell, aber die anderen 3 Knoten hat Pathfinder tatsächlich selber gefunden und ich habe sie dann entsprechend nur akzeptiert und bestätigt.
Okay, danke. Ich habe eine andere Frage auf Deutsch. Welche Formate für Beispieldaten können verwendet werden? Kann auch eine schriftliche Schnittstelldokument auf Word- oder PDF-Format hochgeladen werden?
2 different questions, I would say.
Yeah.
So the actual test files that we have seen and that we are talking about right now are the exact same that you can use today or in the past to actually test your mapping while you do it. So those are structured data files. Those can be of the types that we support. They do have to match the structure, obviously. The second question, if we at some point support unstructured data, for example, just give me the PDF and then suggest the structure and the mapping based on that. We are working on that. It is not in this release. It is targeted for a future release. We are already doing the work for that. And we will keep you updated when that is available.
Absolutely. I have a very practical question. When you apply the new profile, is it still possible to go back to the previous profile? I'm not sure Rick or Jan wants to answer. Marco, I see Marco nodding. Marco, maybe you take it.
Yeah, I think we are not touching the whole system, how the profile works, right? So we still have the versioning system in place. So if you create a new version of the profile because you accept the changes, you have to store it anyhow because it's, otherwise it's just in the intermediate state. And then you can always go back to the old version.
Yeah. Yes, very important point that ties into this whole, you are always in control. You do have the same options as if a colleague or somebody modified your profile and you want to roll that back right now.
This is not touched. This is exactly the same behavior as it was before.
Yeah, absolutely. Then I have another one about how the profiles then work in practice in a user flow, which is a classical use case. You have an XML or JSON source structure, everything works fine, mapping is done, jobs are running, and now the world has changed. So maybe 2 new fields are added or something like that. Can Pathfinder Automapping help in that case as well? Jan?
Yes, it can. Marco will also share something because we have some other stuff on the roadmap for that, but yes, it can. Because as you know, it accepts the previously mapped fields. So if something changes, you can either say start from scratch, or you say take what I already have and see where the differences lie and if I need to change something here. But we will also make that into a more targeted focus mode for profile improvements and suggestions in the future.
So today you have to add the new target structure fields or the source structured fields and then rerun Pathfinder to map it. In the future, we can also create the whole target structure based on your input, or even the source structure. This is on the roadmap. Will follow, I think, in October, if I'm not mistaken.
Cool. Let me see. Another one auf Deutsch. Wie erhebt Pathfinder seine Confidence über die Entscheidung? Auf welchem Confidence Level wird es grün gemacht und wann braucht es Review und wann wird es gar nicht gemacht?
Very good question. So in general, how we calculate confidence is based on all the profiles that we have seen both in our own instances and when they are seen by Pathfinder. So basically, the more you accept a given setting, the more Pathfinder knows this is a valid mapping, the higher the confidence, right? And the actual levels that we have are based on upwards of 80% is considered a confident match. I think we have it at 85 right now. Then anything between 85 and 65% is considered review. And anything below that, it just says, okay, I definitely need a human to review here. And of course, if no match, then there is also no confidence. So it is fairly strict in what it shows you for review, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, perfect. As this question was in German, can you summarize it in 2 sentences in German as well?
Klar. Die Konfidenzlevel an sich, die wir berechnen, basieren natürlich auf den historischen Profilen, die wir kennen und auf den tatsächlichen akzeptierten Varianten mit Pathfinder. Bedeutet, jede akzeptierte Suggestion führt dazu, dass Pathfinder ein Signal bekommt, dass es ein akzeptiertes Mapping und lernt natürlich. Das heißt, darüber kommt die Konfidenz zustande. Und die Grenzen sind aktuell so gesetzt, dass alles über 85% Trefferquote wird automatisch als confident angesehen. Alles bis 65% ist entscheidungsabhängig und alles darunter ist definitiv, ein Mensch muss sich das Ganze anschauen. Das heißt, sie sind relativ strikt gesetzt.
Danke. So let's switch gears and move to the platform portal for a moment. Marco, one for you. Which of the features of the platform portal we just saw will be available for controlling on-premise instances?
Very good question. So as Rick mentioned that in the demo, the platform portal itself is cloud only. It's only available for our cloud customers and hosted by us. But anyway, we introduced a few new features in the platform. I think also last release already, where the platform portal is leveraging on, for instance, this structured restart, right? So at a forced restart. So we have a few way more restart options, for instance, in the product itself, where the platform portal is leveraging, but also you can use on-prem. The monitoring itself, you can also use both ways because we introduced in 26.1 open telemetry and Prometheus support. So you can use that in the platform portal if you're on the cloud, but you can also use it on-prem if you have some kind of Grafana in place or New Relic or whatever. So a lot of these features are available in both worlds, so to say, but the platform portal itself is cloud only.
Thank you. Then I have one for Rick to build on the platform portal further. The question is, how do you get access?
Yes, so this is super simple. Everyone to whom we delivered a license in the past will get an email very soon. So next week we'll start with the first batch of customers, and very likely the week after we'll send the other batch. So you get an email basically that has all the instructions in it. So high level, you go to platform.lobstersoftware.com, and then it will explain you what to do to actually build your account and to have it. If you want to give, for instance, your partner access to the portal to act on your behalf, that's something that's also possible. That needs to go through a support ticket. So I would say stay tuned in the upcoming 2 weeks for an email. If you don't get an email in 2 weeks, reach out to Lobster support.
Yes.
And to be clear, that's for our Lobster Cloud customers, right? Because that's what the portal is focused on.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Then I have some interesting questions about our API, the platform APIs. Maybe Marco, let me start it off with you. Somebody says, very interesting. Lobster without a user interface, very interesting. Are you thinking about releasing your own MCP that can plug into other AI services to speed things up?
Definitely. So our strategy to have Lobster without AI is exactly both ways. So we will provide APIs for the majority of the features, and we will also provide MCP tools in parallel. Yeah, but MCP server is not ready yet. Something maybe we consider in October or maybe in January next year, but there will definitely be our MCP server as well.
Yeah, MCP around our own APIs, yes.
Yes.
But as you saw from Rick, you can already use it with REST APIs today.
Yeah, exactly. But there is not with a native MCP server.
No, exactly. Yeah. But cloud will understand. So it's just a bit more work. So a question for Rick, is it possible to get any value from the partner, like stored passwords as well?
I would say
Through the API.
Yes, most of it, yes. I just pasted the link to the documentation, so whoever has updated can also now dig into the documentation in Swagger. I would say most of the values are there. So for instance, if you have a channel, it also has specificities per channel type. What you also read here is we keep on adding values. So if you miss a particular value, basically that's something that will very likely be adding. If you have a use case where you're like, hey, I would really love to do this with the platform API, we can't do it. We're really interested to hear from you. Passwords by themselves exposing through an API is something I always find a little bit tricky because I see security risk. So there, our typical recommendation, if you need to collaborate on passwords, is use Trading Partner Manager, because then you can actually let the trading partner manage their passwords by themselves.
Yes. By the way, this is a full new set of APIs. So this is not the old platform APIs you may know from the past. With all the obstacles we had there, no, this is a total new approach here, also with a better authentication and authorization system.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think somebody else asked, how do I get access to the APIs? Rick just pasted in our chat the link to the documentation. You will find it there, including easy ways to test it. So please feel free to experiment. We very much encourage that. So especially when our API set will expand over the next few releases, we're super interested to see what all of you will build on top of this, because the only limit is your own creativity and imagination. In that context, somebody asks, is profile editing or creating mappings through the APIs on our roadmap? Marco?
Yes, but this is also the tricky part, and I cannot promise that it will be in October. So what we definitely aim for in October is more low-hanging fruit, like assigning a profile to a channel in combination with Trading Partner Manager, for instance, creating a mapping over the API or a whole profile. Yeah, it's maybe definitely the end goal, but definitely nothing so easy for end October.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see. Other one. This is more back to the platform portal. If I schedule a restart, will all logged in users be alerted to a restart that has been scheduled? I think, Rick, you may be able to answer that.
So definitely not at the moment of scheduling. You catch me off guard here. I will come back to this one. I think there might be a chance that if you do the restart inside the platform, it already triggers this message. If that is the case, then this will very likely also trigger the message, but only like at the beginning of that 3 minutes grace period. So not like all the way in the beginning. I do like the idea. So we'll definitely write it down as an idea. But right now, at the moment of scheduling, it won't happen. At the moment of restart, if the existing functionality has it, it will be there. And we'll give you the permanent answer later.
Yeah, that's a good point. We have so many questions. We will answer all of them after the call, also in writing, and share it with the whole group. It's literally, we have hundreds of questions. So we'll have a fun Friday afternoon answering, and I'm all in our shared Excel sheet, I can tell you already. I see a question here. I can take it pretty quickly. Which version do we need to upgrade to use Pathfinder? For the automapping, it's 26.3. So that version is the one that you need to go to use automapping.
And if you are on-prem, you can already use the update center to download it. If you are in the cloud, we will roll it out, I think, in the next maintenance window, who is, if I'm not mistaken, 1 week or 2 weeks.
Yeah, so the first weekend of August, we'll install it on your test server, the 4th weekend of August on your production server. If you want to go faster, in our documentation, the process is described. It's basically a ticket to support.
Yeah, absolutely. Then I see one final question I want to use to end it with, because I think we're getting close to the top of the hour, and which is, somebody said that they joined the webinar a bit late and realized they missed the beginning. Will there be a recording? The answer is yes. All of you will get an email after the webinar with a link to the recording, as well as a survey with feedback on the webinar. We take those answers very seriously, and we want to improve, of course, each webinar session for all of you. So yes, there will be a recording. It will be sent to all of you in a link. And we very much invite you to also fill in the survey. It will take 5 or 6 minutes, and it will help all of us to do this even better next time. And I think also with that, I think we can say thank you all of you for joining us here today. We're very happy with all of you being here. We'll see all of you in October with the next one.